Hey everyone, it's Byron again. I'm here to testify for Jesus Christ. I want to go over something that's extremely important, and this is going to be my personal testimony of what I've seen and heard with my own eyes and ears. And I'm going to talk about the dogs in the Bible. There's a verse in Philippians that begins, "Beware of dogs." And I did a kind of a little research recently I took all the scripture in the New Testament that talks about dogs. And I realized that for the most part, the dogs were eating scraps off of a table. And then the Apostle Paul says, beware of dogs. And then go into the Old Testament, you can see that there were prophets that ate from Jezebel's table. Figuratively, that could mean they were paid prophets to do wrong or to prophesy wrong. Now, I want to take that and realize I'm going to back it over to you and tell you something that happened in my real life. In 2008, I began to just solely focus on learning the Bible, learning from God, trying to make sure that there was no interference between me and what some other man was saying, unless I knew beyond any shadow of a doubt he was speaking truth. I mean, I was relentless about this, and my wife could back it up. She'll tell you. And I ended up meeting a guy from New Jersey. I met him online. I would say his name was Bill, his first name. And he and I interacted several times. The Lord had warned me about a false prophet. I told him about the guy. Maybe I should just say false teacher. Prophets do teach. But I warned him about hanging around this guy, listening to this guy. And he went and did it anyway. He went and listened to what the guy was saying, went by the guy's instruction. And then he called me up one day and said, "Dude, man, that guy sucked the life out of me." I was like, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Byron, you were right about him, man. After listening to him for a little while, I lost all my spiritual discernment, lost all my interactions with God, etc." The same guy who came back to me and said, "Dude, you were right about that guy," later called me up and said, "I've been approached by people to do videos on YouTube, but to deliberately mislead Christians in my videos." And I'm going to be honest with you, that is the last conversation that I ever had with that guy. He told me he was not going to do it, and I've never seen him again, never heard from him again. He just vanished into thin air. But if you were the type person who would do videos for pay, and they approached you and said, "We'll pay you to do videos to mislead Christians," I would say that you would fit into the category of a dog. You're eating food or eating money or taking money from someone else or off someone else's table. And that's very important to understand that you have, I think the Apostle Paul states, beware of dogs, beware of evil workers, and beware of the concision. And then he goes on to talk about other things. But with dogs, what I realized predominantly, they were talking about people who deliberately took money for their own gain without regard of the impact what they did for the money may have down the line. And in Revelation, you can even see a verse that says, "For without," I always use King James, and sometimes I realize I have to explain a little bit about the King James. When the King James says without, in certain instances, it means outside. So outside, we're speaking of the city of Jerusalem, the New Jerusalem, it says, "For without are dogs, and those that make of the lie," and a couple other things. So it's imperative that you understand there are people being paid money to lead you astray. And there's not only people being paid money to lead you astray, there's people out there that are just doing it because that's their religion. Their religion is to lead you astray. So I wanted to put that out there get that out there going. The Lord has been showing me some things about my hometown, some people in my hometown. I've talked about Russians forever, and He's shown me some people even within my city government are Russian. and that doesn't mean that they were born into Russia. That means that they have aligned themselves with this revolution, and the revolution is literally a Russian revolution brought on through the use of the tribe of Dan, or the learned elders of Zion. It's huge. It's huge. But anyway, and that's even where you get liberalism from. They want to ruin a country with liberalism. So anyway, what I'm saying is, if you're hearing something that sounds really good, but you can't find or can't somehow support that from the Bible, it's very possible somebody's being paid to mislead you. And they're a dog. They are eating the crumbs off somebody else's table. And there's several, you can look it up. There's about, I think there's about 9 verses in the New Testament, maybe 7, but they talk about dogs. 2 references in the King James literally means puppies. And it's talking about children within those verses. But the other ones are talking about dogs. And dogs are people that, I mean, in one of them it says a dog licked a man's wounds for crumbs. I guess that was what it was. So anyway, that is what I wanted to cover in this one. This one's going to be short and sweet. And I may have done another video about it, but this is just being impressed upon me because recently I did a post on Facebook and I stated, I am compassed by dogs. And Jesus, that's a quote from Jesus. When Jesus was hanging on the cross, or at least it's an Old Testament prophecy, there were dogs. If you think about it in the context that I just told you, there are people who gave false testimony against Jesus, and potentially those people were paid for that false testimony. And that's happening here in the United States now. You got a guy named George Soros. He pays demonstrators to go to other cities and demonstrate to, like the looting and stuff that's happened in certain cities. There's times when that's paid people. There are people that go to other cities to assassinate other people. I had a dream one time about an assassin, and it was Canadian geese and then turned into assassins. So migratory assassins, someone who travels for hire, someone who is dealing with a situation. And I experienced a situation like that in my life back in 2016 in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where 5 police officers were killed by a person from outside the city who came in specifically to deal with that. And this is a war against the police, a war against the United States, a war being sponsored by dogs, man. I mean, not sponsored by dogs, sponsored by Jezebel, or people that have tables full of money. They can pass money down, get these assassins working, get these demonstrators working. My city, man, I'm telling you, dude, I've been going to city council meetings here probably maybe the last month. God put me on it. I've been kind of saying a few things and listening, saying a few things and listening. I'm telling you, dude, we have dogs, man. I'm talking about people that'll say one thing one day, turn around and say a different thing the next day. I can feed them a little bit with some of the information that I'm giving. I'll feed them a little bit of information, and then they'll speak about it the next week in a city council meeting. Not only just one person, but many people will speak about it in a city council meeting. I'm having trouble with my camera staying in the middle of it. So there's dogs, man, and some of those dogs are deliberately misleading you. They are there to deceive you. So, bye.